right, guys, how's it going?
Good.
Good. Thanks for joining today.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. So, tell me a little bit about how do you pronounce it? Traba?
Traba. So,
Traba.
so the name, because of the Philippine history with Spain, a lot of the words in Tagalog or Filipino are basically holdovers from Spanish, and so in Spanish you have trabajo. In Filipino, I believe it's trabajar, and so we came up with Traba Legal.
Oh, I like it.
Yeah,
I like it. Yeah. So tell me a little bit about it.
Yeah. So I've been using virtual assistants for about 7 years, and in the Philippines, I've been working with Philippine virtual assistants for over 5 years. And Ed and I are both involved with a coaching group, and we met probably about 3 years ago and started talking and learned that we both are working with virtual assistants. And the way I describe it, it's kind of like the Spider-Man meme where there are three Spider-Men all pointing at each other. We recognize kindred spirits, and we had both had the experience of talking with some of our lawyer friends about how we worked with VAs and actually helped them hire their own VAs, but a light bulb went off and said, "Hey, we should make a business out of this." And so that's really how we started.
Yeah.
Right. And then probably before that, I had a light bulb memory. Matthew and I are estate planning attorneys here in California, and Apple does a brilliant marketing. So I was opening up my new pair of earbuds or AirPods, right? And in the back, it says, conceived in Cupertino, California, but made in China. And I thought one moment when I was overworked, tired, and depressed of pounding away at the keyboard, what if, my estate plans were conceived in California, but the work was done in the Philippines? Now, for those of you that can't see me, I'm Filipino American. So I am very connected with the country. And, so I started dabbling. We had some relatives who started working for me. And then ultimately, just like Matthew had said, we had connected. Honestly, I was a little bit jealous of Matthew because it seemed as if he had perfected the process. And so that's when we connected. We put our heads together and we turned it into a business.
So Matthew, you were already doing it before you guys met.
Yeah.
You had virtual assistants over there already.
I did. And, it was really, it was really a lifesaver for me during COVID. And your experience at Cause Legal was probably similar. We never stopped. If anything, it transformed the tire kickers into, hey, we're ready to buy now because we see the risk of not having an estate plan. And so really two things were going on at once. First, our workload increased during COVID. But the second is we were all working remotely, and we had about probably, I would say, 5 years of tech innovation within a 5-month period, nationwide, right? And so it was just kind of the perfect storm of events happening, and started doing a lot of outsourcing, and here we are.
Yeah, how is the training, like training them to do what you need them to do? And well, I guess back up, when you first started hiring virtual, what did you have them doing?
So I'll tell you kind of my origin story is I was, my team back then was, I would say probably 2018, 2017 time period. My team was smaller, and I was using like an outsourced receptionist, call Ruby. I also worked with Smith AI. And what I experienced is that across the board, all clients and prospects loved them. They loved the experience of talking to the receptionist. They were nice, friendly, engaging, etc. The problem is the way the tech works is if somebody calls in and then they call in, whether it's 1 hour or 5 minutes later, they're going to be routed to somebody else. And, within our space of estate planning, you've probably had the experience of, the intake teams on a call, they're asking additional, questions. Hey, we need some more information. And then the little old lady client says, well, I don't have that. It's in the room. So let me call you right back after I get the document. And so they do that. They call back and they get somebody entirely new. And so it wasn't meeting my customer service goals of trying to build the connection and the relationship with the clients, because even though Call Ruby or Smith AI would have the notes in the call, it would still take time for the new receptionist who had just answered the call 5 minutes later to get up to speed and get oriented. And so that's really when I decided to bring somebody on board with outsourcing is, I wanted to maintain that level of customer service, essentially. The people that I hire and that we hire through Traba Legal, they typically don't have legal experience, although we actually have a number of candidates and a number of VAs who are either lawyers or have completed several years of law school, and we'll talk about that later. But they all have college degrees, and they all typically have at least 2 or 3 years of business experience, but just not direct legal experience.
Yeah.
And so what I've done is, depending on the area, is I will make videos of, typically me walking through, here's a task. And then we've got a learning management system where we can create courses. We could do one-offs, like here's how you send an email through our CRM. Here's how you send an invoice through our CRM. And so when we onboard someone, we put them through a series of courses, and then we say, and if you have any questions, here's the knowledge base, which is, I would say, probably 75% video based. And that's how we get the people trained up.
Yeah, that's smart. That's smart. Yeah, we're starting to work on our we use Zoho, right? You as well, right? So
Yeah.
we're starting to get things into Zoho Learn. Are you using that?
Yeah, that's exactly what we use.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So we're starting to get that a little bit dialed in. That's a big, it's kind of been all mashed together in Google Docs and all that shit. And now we're starting to try and create courses. We're hiring more people. So now it's like, okay, the onboarding for everyone is like when you don't have that, right? If you don't have a course or whatever, it just takes time. It takes time, and you're doing it individually, and you're going, it's so we want to, that's part of our plans this year for 25 is to really build it out, especially for like our legal assistants, paralegals getting, because a lot of them we hire, legal assistants we hire with no experience at all. Right. And we train them. Right. Yeah. So your first hire was a receptionist.
Yeah. So that's correct. She was a receptionist. At that time, I was a true solo. And so, we get a lot of documents in on PDF, and I was the bottleneck of, making sure they go into the correct file. And so, receptionist, it's a full-time job, but the phone's not ringing 24/7. So in her off time, when she's not actively talking to prospects or clients, I started having her sort all the PDFs, and it just kind of grew from there. And then, she got a full book of business, or, her schedule was full. And so then I hired another one, and, start doing kind of a divide and conquer approach. And it just continued to blossom.
Yeah, that makes sense. We're on the onboarding right now with Smith AI.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So we just hired them, but what you just said now about getting someone different each time, that's a little worrisome. Now, I think one way we're handling that is that the only calls that Smith AI is going to take for us are from our marketing lines.
Mhm.
So if someone, whether it's a postcard number or a digital ad number or something like that, that's the only calls. Calls to our main line will still come directly to our receptionist here. But that's interesting. How was it with the language barrier or strong accents? Is that an issue that you ran into?
No, I mean, so, and Ed, you can talk about this as well, but so, the two popular places for outsourcing are the Philippines and India. And India uses British English, the Philippines uses American English. And that's, for historic reasons. After, the US military was in the Philippines during World War II. So they teach American English in the schools in the Philippines. And, there might be, very slight accent, but, I've got people in frontline positions, my intake team, and, I get feedback from prospects and clients that, oh gosh, I love talking to Michelle, or I love talking to Christine. She's so nice. And, I've never received a comment from anybody saying, gosh, where is this person from?
Yeah.
Matthew, in context, I think the reason why that's the case is, this is not like a shocker. We're not the first to use, remote workers in the Philippines. In fact, we're probably, either towards the end. You take large global companies like American Express. I think all of the insurance companies in the United States, you call their 1-800 line to ask for a beneficiary designation form, you are most likely talking to a Filipino. And so I don't want to say that the American public is desensitized to it, but there is a long and rich history, Joe, between the countries, the United States and the Philippines. For example, the largest American cemetery located outside of the United States is in the Philippines.
Get out of here.
It's the largest Veterans Administration operation outside of the Philippines is located in the Philippines. English is taught like at kindergarten. The literacy rate is amazing. And so, yes, there might be an accent, but the command, and I would say the work ethic of the Filipino is just so darn amazing. You look at, Matthew and I do a lot of assessment calls with our fellow attorneys, and really the number one complaint is that they can't find decent workers here, right? And so you have such a high literacy rate, you have such a high work ethic component, and all of our clients are just so amazed at, what we're able to accomplish. All of our candidates have at least a bachelor's degree. Like Matthew said, some of them are full-blown lawyers. Many of them are professionals, either teachers, nurses. And so it is an amazing opportunity, for American lawyers to consider. Now, I wanted to clarify, Matthew uses his team a little bit different than I, and so that's what makes our union special. His VAs are like front office. So you call Matthew, you call Crider Law at 10 a.m. Pacific, you are talking to a Filipino. And that is darn amazing. I've used mine as sort of a 24/7 operation. So right around 3 o'clock, my team is trained to make sure that they can complete all of their deadlines. And so at 3 o'clock Pacific, if they know they can't finish it, they need to delegate to their assigned virtual assistant, because at 5 p.m. Pacific, it's about 8 or 9 in Manila, which is perfect to have a 24/7 operation. So my team knows that there should never be anything late ever, so long as there's proper training with their associated virtual assistant. And it's, for the last 6-7 years, we've been able to do amazing things at my law firm.
So when you say associated virtual assistant, so you're talking about you have someone in office working,
Right.
And then
Yes.
if they're not getting it done, then they're saying, hey, virtual assistant, you need to take this.
Yeah. So the way my team is structured is we have at any given time, we have 4 paralegals / legal assistants in California who are either reporting to the office or sometimes working remotely in California. And each and every one of those have their own dedicated virtual assistants in the Philippines.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's great. Around the clock work.
And really, the idea is my local team here in California, they're doing heavy lifting. They're doing things that are high ticket items. What Matthew and I like to say, hugging the client. So customer service, calling Mrs. Smith to make sure she made the designation for the life insurance, that kind of thing. Or even just calling someone knowing that, they need extra support so that they can do those types of things and they're not busy doing some of the meticulous things that are better suited for someone who is working in a more remote position. And that can be accomplished after hours, like, drafting documents and deeds and, all of that. So that when my California team member reports to the desk at 9 o'clock the next morning, maybe she's only or he's only going to need to spend 10% reviewing and confirming rather than doing the whole 100% of the matter.
Yeah, that makes sense. How do you meet them? How do you get introduced?
I actually, how do we like find them, or how do we like interact with them?
Yeah, how did you find them, or how do you find them?
Well, we have an extensive process that's sort of trade secret, but we do have boots on the ground in the Philippines. And so, there's a lot of talent, Joe. I would say it's very different from here. A lot of hungry talent, a lot of competent talent. And I can only say that because I just came back from the Philippines. I spent the holidays there, and I was just so impressed with the just the vibrance and the hustle and bustle and the workforce that is ready and willing and available. I stayed in a particular town in Manila called BGC, which stands for Bonifacio Global City. And this, you close your eyes, you open it, it's as if you're either in San Francisco or Manhattan. I walk out of my my hotel, and there is an American Express. It's a high rise, and it has American Express on it, and just very impressive. So we have a team in the Philippines who assists us boots on the ground with finding the candidates. And I would say it doesn't take us very long. So we've got different requests. We've got a request to fill a marketing position for one of our colleagues. And I would say, Matthew, because of the holidays, we can find top-notch candidates in like 1 to 2 weeks. So we'll usually interview them. We'll give them skills testing to make sure it's an appropriate fit. Part of our job in the search phase, which we'll go over how we work, is making sure there's a good long-term fit. So one of the things that differentiates us from our competitors is a couple of things. Is number one, Matthew and I are actually practicing lawyers. We've done it. We have a collective 10 plus years of best practices. So we sort of know what's going to be long-term. So we're actually looking for a long-term fit. We want to know exactly what the client is looking for, their expectations, and we want to pair them. We go so far as to personality test the candidates, Joe. Right?
That's great. That's great. It's smart.
Yeah, if they're going to be front of the office, we're not going to necessarily send them someone who is very scientific and who likes details. The personality can match, but if they're looking for someone like my team of 4 who are primarily responsible of making sure documents are correct, right? That's a particular personality type, rather than someone who's in the marketing position trying to sell or close a deal, for example. So we're looking for that, and we're wanting to make sure that this is the right person on the right bus, because we want this bus to go for a very, very long time.
Yeah, that's smart. That's smart. So you were just over there, yeah?
I was just over there. It was pretty darn amazing. Yeah. And
I've never been.
There are parts. So there's 3 main islands. There's the middle island, Cebu, and you go to the mall. and I'm like, why are there so many American people? Now, when I say American people, not like me American, like you American, Joe, right? And I was asking around, and there were a lot of American soldiers there during the prior world wars, and I guess they fell in love with it, that by the time they retired, they went back. Yeah, in certain places I went to an island called El Nido in Palawan. So many Europeans, a lot of Americans there.
There's three main islands.
Three main islands, yeah. Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao, which is the southernmost island.
Okay. What's like the touristy place?
I would say everyone goes to the northernmost one. That's Luzon, right?
Okay.
And then, I'm not the perfect person to ask because the last time I was there prior to this was 20 years. But I would say people are starting to discover more of the southernmost islands. So yeah, there's an island, and it's called Surigao Island, and it's still secret, but it's becoming the surfing capital of the world.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Surigao.
And I've been eyeing it. I think that's going to be the next place that I go. But I've been in many places around the world, and I thought the most beautiful place prior to this trip was a little island in Greece. But I'm convinced that this little island, El Nido in Palawan, is probably the #1 place that I've ever been.
Is that right?
Yeah, just amazing, pristine. Actually, what is it called? Survivor. You know that show, that Survivor.
Yeah.
They were filming there.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
How long's the flight over there?
If you go direct out of Philippine Airlines, it's 15, 16 hours.
Yeah, I think that's
from LA.
From Los Angeles. Yeah. Matthew actually is he's going to the Philippines in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, in 2 weeks. Yeah.
Damn, that is a long flight. That's a long. Do you guys fly first class?
Business class for sure.
Business class, yeah. First class is a little crazy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But the flight back is long. I think
that's worse.
12 or 13-hour flight. I want to say I leave at 9 a.m. Filipino time, and then I get into San Francisco at 9 a.m. or something. And, the same day. So it's like a time machine, but, I've got 12 hours to sleep. So
yeah. I'd love to go over there. Everything I see about it is just gorgeous. And the only thing that stopped us is just the travel time. It's just like shit. As our firm with our firm being as it's been, Ashley's been like the main consult attorney. So she's to get away for long periods of time it's like we're losing money then, right? Losing income. But we're starting to build a proper sales team and hopefully be able to take some time off here soon. We go on like long weekends, like 4-day weekends and that type of thing. But yeah.
Matthew, what's the rule at Atticus? They force us to take how many days off a year?
So there's a challenge in the coaching group we're in, and the goal is to take off 175 days a year.
Jiminy cricket.
You get 104 days off if you don't work weekends. So, but you start adding it up, and I mean, I'm pretty generous with myself. Like, my kids are young, so I get spring break off, take the week between Christmas and New Year's off, the week of Thanksgiving. A week or two in the summer. And even when I do all of that, I still have like another month. What I'm going to do. So, yeah.
Yeah. How big's your firm right now, Matthew?
I've got, in addition to myself, 8 other people. So 4 in the Philippines, 4 in the U.S.
How about you, Ed?
And we are 12.
12?
Yeah, with three attorneys, and then the rest are paralegals, legal assistants, and a marketing team.
Yeah, we're starting to build a little bit of a beast here that you have to, we're hiring number 22 and number 23 here in a minute. Yeah. And
it sounds like you got some what I call growing pains.
Yeah. It's, you know what, if I read a thing a while ago from Grant Cardone, and if you're familiar with him, where he said, if you don't have problems, then you're not expanding enough, right? It's like if shit isn't coming up and problems aren't cropping up, then you're not doing enough.
Right.
And that kind of made sense to me. It's like, okay, when you're small, right, when it's just by yourself, you have these problems, and maybe you look back on it, right? It's like, oh, that was nothing. That problem was nothing. But at the time, it was big, right? And as you get bigger and as you expand more, turn into like a 300 employee company, for example, right? Those problems for an individual are like, holy shit, what the hell? What would I even do with that, right? But so it's all kind of relative. But yeah, we definitely have quote growing pains, but I love it. I love getting the problems. It's like, it's kind of just an indicator to me, looking at like, okay, what do we need to do to grow by 20, 30, 40, 50% this year? Last year we grew, it was like 83%, which is just,
Oh, wow.
That's not sustainable, obviously, right? To grow 83% every year, be nuts. But with 20, 30% growth, I'd be
Is that
stoked
revenue
on that.
growth or team growth or both?
Revenue growth, team growth is probably a little bit more.
Wow.
Yeah, we've probably close to doubled our team size.
Wow.
Yeah. But when you do that, you got to get everyone in place, and I'm a big proponent of, just flooding, getting so many leads that we can't handle them, and getting so much work that we have to hire new people and all that. Definitely. But what I have not done is have anyone virtual. We literally just hired our first paralegal who's going to work virtually. She lives about an hour and a half away. She's in office now for the first 2 weeks, training and getting to know us. And then this salesperson that we just hired, she's going to be virtual as well. Yeah. Anyway, what about, you mentioned salespeople, like closing deals. You're having virtual assistants do that?
Not, well, one, but she's US based, and then most of my team that does that is in the US. So I've got one person who you had mentioned how you do the initial consults. So we're trying to move towards non-attorney consults as the initial meeting. And so the person I have is on the East Coast, in Eastern time zone. And she's the first, other than the intake team who, does initial qualification and then scheduling, she's the first point of contact and really is more in that sales role of, what are the pain points? Here's our solution. Here's our process. Here's our price. Do you want to move forward? Yes or no? And so that's been pretty successful. It's cleared up a lot of my time. There are arguments to be made that attorneys shouldn't be in the initial meeting because it's really hard for most attorneys to not give legal advice. All you need to do is X. And it's like, great. Now even though you haven't paid me any money, you're a client and I've got duties to you. Right. So, it's a process, and, talking about growing pains, and, the person we have doing it does it differently than I would do it. And, trying to get rid of or not be as attached to my ego around that is a challenge, but it works.
Yeah. I just did a podcast the other day with a guy up in Georgia, Nelson Elder Law, and they're bringing in 12 million in revenue a year. Estate planning, probate, Medicaid, same thing we're doing. It's like 12 million, Jesus Christ. But all his sales reps are non-attorney salespeople. and he brought up something that I thought was really interesting. We were talking about seminars and how we want to, start doing more seminars. We're building out a space to do them here, and it made me think that this really applies to the sales process as well, where you're really doing like 3 things on a seminar. You're educating, you're entertaining, or you're selling. Right? It's like one of those 3 things, and attorneys are like notorious for educating. Right? It's like just like educate. But that doesn't really result in the sale. And if you're doing a seminar, that's really, I mean, you're not doing it just for kicks, generally. And he was saying that the non-attorney salespeople, right? And it kind of segues over to that, because I look at my wife, for example, and even our Medicaid consultant. She's not an attorney, but she's just as knowledgeable as any attorney in Medicaid law. And both of them, when they do consults, they kind of overeducate. Right? They give, right? They give a little bit too much information. And what happens when a prospect gets too much information? They can get confused. You never really know on the other end how intelligent this person is on the other end of the call, right? Or the consult, right? How can they assimilate information easily? And so what happens when they don't, right? It's like, okay, this person could have, $50 million estate and be dumb as a box of rocks. But so what happens when they don't really understand information? People don't make decisions, right? If they don't really understand it, they're not going to make a decision. Right. And so when you take a non-attorney salesperson who doesn't necessarily have all of that in-depth knowledge, so to speak, it's like, okay, what's your problem? What are your pain points? Okay, this is a solution for it. Simple as that, right? Kind of, that's dumbing it down, but it's really kind of as simple as that. And yeah, so I'm excited to get some of these. The girl that we hired, she seems absolutely amazing. She's a true salesperson. She's been working for a law firm for a while, and yeah, she's absolutely fantastic. But a real salesperson. The people we have doing consults now, they got into the legal field to be in the legal field, not to be in the sales field.
Right.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Like, I've been thinking over the last few months about the phrase estate planning. And, if I say that to you guys, I mean, we all know what that means, right? But your average prospect or client, that's just a legal phrase to them. They don't know what that means. I think they think in terms of wills or trusts, revocable.
Yes.
If they're aware of that. And so I'm working on the process of trying to de-emphasize estate planning as a marketing phrase. Like if you go on Google AdWords, the phrase estate planning or estate planning attorney as a keyword actually is less expensive than revocable trust.
Yeah, no one's searching for it. Right? But we use it all the time as if people know what it is. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It's funny you said that, because I was just thinking about this the other night. I read Building a Story Brand not too long ago. Yeah. And
is that what Dan Miller?
Good book.
Yeah. Yep. Amazing book. And I looked at our website and I'm like, shit, I need to change some things. So maybe I'll do that today. But yeah, exactly. But that's what I thought about. Okay, we have this bold headline on our website that doesn't really communicate. And then I was thinking about putting up a billboard right on the highway here locally. I don't really expect it to generate a lot of leads, but it's going to be really good for branding. And I was like, I can't put estate planning on there. People aren't going to know what the hell. They really don't know what that is. So it's like, okay, wills, trust, yeah, that type of thing. Ed, what do you guys do with salespeople? Do you have attorneys? Do you have non-attorneys?
Yeah. So I meet most of my clients by giving presentations, right?
Oh, yeah.
I connect with, talking about seminars, right? So I do a lot of those. I connect with churches, but probably my biggest revenue source would be financial institutions like banks and credit unions, right? And so I'll go in with a marketing team, right? And all of this is resonating to me because I have found that if you say less and you don't answer the question, like, I don't want to be like tricky, but like, when you overeducate and you answer the question like too thoroughly at that beginning stage, it gives the impression to the prospective client that they're okay for a little bit and then they can delay, right? Because the fact of the matter is, and if we're just talking about estate planning, the vast majority of the country is not going to do it, like 70%, right? So when I go and do a presentation, my job is one thing and one thing only, is to convert some of those 70 people to come over to the side that actually will plan. So it's usually short and sweet. I'll take maybe like 3 questions and then I'll run the heck out of there, right? And then the marketing team, they get all of the contact information. And then they do all of what we call pre-qualification, right? So an attorney actually doesn't come into the picture until we are paid, right? So a non-attorney takes care of all of the beginning phases. So there's a round of pre-qualification. They schedule on the QR code, or they'll put their information old school on a paper. And then I have a non-attorney team pre-qualify all of them. And they will say the next step, you'll meet with a paralegal or legal assistant, and you are expected to pay because they've listened to me and they kind of know exactly what I'm doing. There's no surprises, right?
Yeah.
If you have some assets, if you have a home, if you have minor children, you kind of need some kind of an estate plan, right? And so then the paralegal comes in, does maybe like 80% of the heavy lifting, and then the attorney comes in after that. The attorney only comes in if an engagement and some form of payment has been provided.
Okay, so they scan a QR code at a seminar, and then who's calling them from your team? You have an intake person?
A very skilled marketing sales professional.
Okay. And are they doing like a consult right then and there?
Well, they're asking him some questions, like, tell me a little bit about, what's your background, your assets, like, do you own a home, you have minor children, the things that would trigger why you would need an estate plan.
Yep. Okay. Yeah.
And keeping in mind that these people are educated already. They already listened to me for like 30, 40 minutes live or in a webinar.
Yeah. Okay.
So that
webinar too.
Kind of easy.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And so at that point, the marketing person, they're gathering their information, and then they're like, okay, you need, based on what you told me, you need X, Y, Z. Here's the fee.
And that fee has been discussed at the presentation.
Okay. Okay, good. Yeah.
So no surprises.
Right. Okay. And so then they pay with them, and then they're scheduled for a meeting with the paralegal.
They actually pay at that next meeting with the paralegal.
Okay. So they don't pay with the marketing person. Okay.
Yeah.
Is that usually done virtually or in person?
98% virtually, 2% in person.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
I have an almost virtual practice.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. The only thing that's in person would be my legacy clients, right? I've been practicing like 17 years, and the people who come in are the spoiled clients that are used to hugging and touching and grabbing and coming, kind of thing. But I'd say even pre-pandemic, I'd say the last 6-7 years, majority of my clients are virtual, which my whole team loves. We have a pretty relaxed attire. We can work remotely, or at least I can. I'm traveling, working at the same time. But yeah, I'd say 98% remote, 2% in person.
Got it. Oh, so you do have an office? Oh
yes, I've got generally 2 offices, in different parts. Yeah, and that'd be reserved for like the 78-year-old that needs an additional helping hand to get the notarization done. Yeah, we use a lot of remote online notarization to accomplish the signings in my office.
Okay. Okay. I don't know much about that myself, but I've heard just like we have a remote online notary here. And we do it for some stuff, but there's been like some gripe about it with doing it for estate plans. You don't have any concern over it?
I've been doing it since the pandemic with no problems. And we've actually had, I don't know how many deaths we've had. We usually have at least four to six deaths a month. It just depends. We've had no issues. Every now and then I'll meet a colleague saying, "Oh, you can't do that with the deed." And there are some exceptions. We have 2, maybe 3 counties inside of California that want wet signatures. And so for that one deed, we'll pivot, no big deal. But for the rest, we'll use remote online notary.
So a lot of it is just kind of knowing which counties and all that stuff.
Yeah. Like there's a county near you, Matthew, right? It's a wet signature.
Yep, Sacramento County.
So and then San Mateo, I think you need wet signature, and then I believe also San Francisco. So just being aware. But it's part of the growing pains of learning, and we're human, we make mistakes, we apologize to our clients, but we've never had like a critical error using the remote platform, which we love.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's also a demographic thing, I think, because I mean, if you have older clients who aren't tech savvy, they're going to want, like what Ed said, the high touch and, hugging the grandma kind of thing. Although that, that's hard to generalize as well. I mean, my mother-in-law is 89, and I mean, she's all over the Apple products and, the iPad and all that. But, if you have people that are still working, they love it because, it's like, oh, wait, I could sign my estate plan essentially like a DocuSign, and I don't have to take a half day off work, and I don't need to go to attorney's office and figure out traffic and parking and, pull it up on Google Maps. Sign me up. I'm happy.
God, you guys got me thinking now.
The pandemic was devastating, but I think for our practices, Joe, I mean, my numbers went up like 40% easy, but even the older clients are like, okay, fine, don't do Zoom. Do you have an iPhone? Sure, let's meet by FaceTime. I mean, we were able to do some amazing things and, tell people it's okay to meet remotely. We need to get this thing done. So it was obviously an uncomfortable time, but it was a wonderful time to, the mindset shift of how are we working? How are we going to accomplish this? We have this thing, and I hate to say this over the internet, but because we're in California, we will do what we call drive-by signings, right? They come into the parking lot, stay in there, and we use PPEs, right? Drive by, sign on clipboards, and then drive away. It's like the drive-through window. Like, that's cool. When the client would come in, there was a lot of formalities. We'd have to give them coffee. Not that we don't like to give that, but we were able to accomplish so much by being forward thinking. And, this is just sort of like so many years later. Now, Matthew and I are dealing with, okay, what's on the horizon? Like what are the quicker, faster, cheaper, more efficient ways to work? And one of it, I would argue, is to challenge you and your team and your firm to think about your team, right? What do you want your team in Florida to focus on, Joe? And what do you want a remote team who can do something much more efficiently at a much more efficient and comfortable price point, right?
Yeah, totally. I'm all about efficiency, and good God. You guys got me really thinking. Are you both doing estate plans throughout the whole state or generally in your local area?
I'd say throughout the whole state.
Throughout the whole state.
Yeah, because that's what's been our the whole signings in person has kept us pretty much to our local area here. Yeah, and has limited.
And it really opens up the marketing, and I really view the remote online is a competitive advantage because, when you're dealing with, in office signing, and all the problems I mentioned with, the scheduling and driving and parking and traffic and all that, it just really opens all of it up. And, California as a state doesn't have on the books, the statutes, they don't allow remote online notary, which is kind of ironic given that, we're the birthplace of Silicon Valley and all the tech companies. We still haven't figured that out politically or legally, but California, like every other state, has a law that says, if a document is notarized in a different state according to that state's law, it's valid in California. And
so how's that work then for you guys? You have to say it was done in Nevada or something like that?
Yeah. So we, and I think you use this service as well. I use a service. It used to be called Notarize. Now it's called proof.com.
Yeah.
And it's like the DoorDash of notaries, essentially, where, there's a secured platform, you upload the documents, you flag all the signature, like, on DocuSign or on, Zoho Sign. And then they contract with the notaries. And so from the client's perspective, they log in, they take a picture of their driver's license. Once their identity is verified, which takes about 30 seconds, they're admitted to a room like this, and then they just go through and click and sign. Once they're done, we get the documents that we download in PDF format, and that's it.
And it's 24/7, by the way, Joe. So it's even better than DoorDash because it's instantaneous.
Yeah. So your paralegals aren't doing the notarization. It's this service.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, because we do all of the signings. Yeah, we need to stop that shit. I don't know what we're thinking.
Well, I think we did. That's what we did too before the pandemic, right, Matthew? I mean,
it was. Yeah, we did it. We did it that way as well. And I mean, even during the pandemic, I mean, Ed talked about the drive-by signings. We had this would probably be in, July and August of 2020 during the height, where, we had a table that we'd put out in the courtyard outside our office, and we'd have on the, the masks and the gloves, and we'd wipe everything down with Clorox wipes, before and after. And, it worked. But, again, just in terms of, scaling and efficiency, online is a game changer. And so I had one of my team, we're going back and forth about language to send to clients about the remote online. And so she, wrote up some thoughts, plugged it into ChatGPT. ChatGPT did its thing. And then, she presented it to me, and it was like, your typical client communication. You've got two options to sign. One is remote online notary. You could do it at any time. The second is in person. And I said, get rid of the in person. It sounds great, but we want to lead with that. We don't want to prime the pump. If somebody asks for in person, we're going to do it, but we don't want to make those two options seem equivalent. We want to lead with the remote online.
Yeah, give them the option only if they ask for that. Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, man, you guys got me thinking. Are you either of you using AI in drafting and stuff like that?
Yeah,
I'm not using it for drafting. I use it more for marketing and answer questions. If I have a presentation, I did another podcast with one of our colleagues, and she's a market dominant real estate attorney in California, and so she brought me onto her podcast, but she wanted me to answer 10 very specific estate planning crossover real estate questions. And some of the questions were dealing with new law that's about to kick in California in April, right? And so I had, dabbled in it, but I needed just clarification. So I had my team assist me on phase one, but it was wonderful. Yeah, it's wonderful. Yeah, we've since included it in our engagement agreement. We've included it in our employee handbook, because this is sort of new and exciting. We just want to make sure that we're scaling and growing responsibly because, every now and then, Joe, you probably know because your team is big, you'll have a rogue employee use it in a way that you've never heard of it before. So just want to be careful.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah.
So in Zoho, I've enabled the AI and, set up the API between Zoho and ChatGPT. And so in both Zoho Mail and in Zoho CRM, when you do that, it creates a little button in the dialog box, and you can click the button and it will start giving you prompts. Or it'll open up another window and you can, so I use AI a lot for refining. It's kind of the 10-80-10 rule. So I'll spend 10% of the time, either drafting the prompt or writing the email that I would write. And then I cut and paste that into ChatGPT and say, and I remove it so there's no confidential information. So like I don't use the full name. I'll say Bob Smith or whatever, and I go back later and change that. But I'll say, here's a draft of an email that I've written. Please make it concise, friendly, and professional.
Yeah, I'll use that a lot for stuff like that, and for some marketing stuff. I've used it for writing policies. Right, it's like here's 5 sentences about this new policy we want to implement. Okay, create one. It's like, oh, it's amazing.
Yeah.
With on a totally another back on the virtual assistants. What's it look like? I know it's more affordable than having a US base. What are we kind of looking at there?
There are 2 stages. If somebody hires us, the first stage is the search stage, and that's $2,500. And what that gets the person is they give us a job description, tells us what they're looking for. We post the ads, get all the resumes, go through them, do an initial round of interviews, and then we narrow it to the top 3 candidates. And then we send the candidates to the client. We coordinate with them to schedule interviews. They interview, they could interview all 3, they could interview 1, whatever. And then they pick the one person that they want to work with. Once they say, I want to work with this VA and I want them to start on this date, then we transition into the placement stage. And that is $3,000 a month. And that gets a dedicated VA that's going to work for the firm for 40 hours a week. The $3,000 covers their salary and everything, that basically their entire out-of-pocket cost. And then we of course handle all the compliance. It's basically like a co-employment situation. We do all the back office, employment law, compliance work, and then they are assigned to the client law firm, and the client law firm manages their day-to-day.
Yeah, got it. So what's that come out? I'm so bad with math. I have to use the calculator for everything.
36,000 a year.
36 a year. Okay.
Yeah. So 36,000 a year, it works out to be about $15 an hour, a little more, which, in California isn't even minimum wage. So.
No, not even close.
I would say one of the things that stands out, Joe, is that it also comes in with regular check-in calls on both sides. So let's say you were our client in Florida. One of us will be checking in with you, especially in the beginning, very regularly, just to see how is it going, what does the onboarding process look like. And part of that is we're taking our 10 years of best practices and trying to see where you're at, right? Because we are really looking for a long-term fit. And we'll give you advice on how to give a deadline, for example, because deadlines in the Philippines are very different from deadlines in Florida, right?
In what way? What way would you say?
For example, my American team, I can literally say, hey, I got this wonderful project. It's going to lead to a lot of revenue. I want you guys to think about it. There's no deadline, but let me know about it when you have a moment, right? And my team, because they've known me for a long time, they will actually let me know when the time is right for them, but they'll let me know. With my American team, my Philippine team, I can't do that, right? Right. I have to say, got an idea, got this project, and I literally have to map it out, right? And then I have to
Be like,
do check-ins as well, right? Because
I need it on this date and this date.
so for example, if the hard stop deadline is, for example, March 1, you are checking in on February 15, right? And I don't want to say necessarily it's helicoptering the employee, but especially in the beginning when you're getting to learn, like the style and the way your office is with they are, I highly recommend just a lot of structure, right?
Yeah.
Hey, your job is to check my email. I want you to check it at 8 a.m., 12 p.m., and 3 p.m. And I want you to give me a report of which one I absolutely need to reply and which one you're going to be replying to, like very specific, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I lost my train of thought because
yeah. What
did you ask?
I do this. I'm like an old person. I forget when I walk into a room. What the hell would I walk in here for?
Oh, so it comes with a lot of check-ins, and I would say that is something that a lot of our competitors are not, because we're really looking for that long-term fit. Now, just to make sure that the story matches up, we're also checking in with your assigned remote worker, right? To see what their interpretation of the issue is, if there are issues, right? And then really we're like mediators, right? But
yeah,
we just want to make sure. And we've been doing this, Matthew, regularly. And it's been a very successful run. And we're really excited about the future.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Been pretty profitable for you guys. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. That's good to hear.
Anything where, we're lawyers, but we've sort of spun off our business into areas where we don't technically need to practice law, but it's law adjacent is so exciting, Matthew and I.
That's the same for me. We're, this whole non-stuffy attorney thing. We're looking to, create a national brand on that. It's not law firm based. Well, it's not legal work, right? But it's exciting. It's exciting. How are they treated? Are they treated as they're not W-2 employees, right?
No, they're not. And that's on the US side, because they're not based in the US, we don't have to notify the states. I mean, they're not employees in the US. So it works pretty well.
Okay. So we're essentially paying you guys just a monthly fee.
Right.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay. How's the process work when someone doesn't work out?
So the contract is for it's a 12-month contract, right? Knock on wood, we've not really had much issue. If it's really not working out, and again, there's not a lot of surprises, Joe, because we do regular check-ins, especially in the beginning. But like we had a situation where the remote worker was dealing with some personal issues. There had been some deaths in the family, like one after the other. And, that's very stressful, right? So we would offer alternate candidates to fill that position, right? Or if it's really not working out because it's reasonable and it's not a surprise, then we could break the contract if that was the case. But we really do try hard to make sure that there's continuity, and so we've been quite successful with the initial assignment, that kind of staying on that. Yeah,
that's good. What are the most common roles that these guys fill?
Definitely drafting documents, whether that's estate planning documents or other firms. Several of our firms are in the family law space. And so, they'll draft divorce documents or, other documents involved in those kind of cases. So definitely drafting. In my firm, of course, intake, having them in the intake role. And then also we have firms that use them for marketing, whether it's like a full stack marketing assistant or somebody who is just going to manage the social media and, kind of make sure that everything is on brand, going back to the story brand discussion.
Yeah.
One person wants to work with them. They've got a content strategy and they want the VA to just generate, pages of content that they can put onto the website.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. That's good. You guys got me thinking about several things. So,
well, hey, if we have motivated you to think of changing some operations for the better, Matthew and I did a good job on this podcast.
for sure. Well, you got me thinking. So hopefully other people start thinking too. Yeah. I've been, like I said, everyone's been in person, everyone until just recently. Yeah. So it's definitely, as we grow, yeah, I'm going to keep spending money on marketing. So we're going to get more and more clients, and we'll need more and more staff for sure. Yeah.
Well, and one of the things, Joe, one of the things that we do is, so we get the question, how do you work with somebody on the other side of the world? And, the answer is just like you do, just like you work somebody, with somebody in the States. What we've done from a firm culture standpoint is we've got a Monday morning meeting where, it's kind of a all hands on deck. We've got an agenda. Part of the agenda is going through every open matter that we have, and what's the current stage, what are the next actions, who's going to do it. Then every day other than Monday, we have a daily huddle that lasts 15 minutes or less, and we talk about the 3 rocks. We talk about gratitudes. We ask if there are any what we call client headlines. So we want to get in front of any client problems, compliments, concerns, complaints. And then I ask the team if they have any admin, if they need any help with anything, this isn't working on Zoho, so I need to tweak this or what have you. And so we do all of that to instill and maintain the firm culture. And it's also a way to get to know the people, because during each of those meetings, they're gonna, well, what are you grateful for today? Oh, I'm grateful that we got to see my in-laws this weekend, or we did something else. And so even though a lot of the times the VAs are working in kind of a back office role, whether it's drafting or marketing, they're still very much part of the team. And we talked last week about using Zoho. We use Click all the time, which is Zoho's version of Slack or Microsoft Teams. And we're in that all day long, bouncing questions back and forth or reporting on this client or this issue or what have you. And so it really works in the sense of, they're fully integrated in the team, and, whether somebody's next door in the same office suite or across, the other side of the world, we're still able to communicate really effectively.
Yeah. I like it, guys. I'm excited for you. Yeah. I think you're going to kill it. Are you doing much marketing on it right now?
We're working on that. So far, a lot of our marketing has been word of mouth. We also go to different, trade shows. So like we were at Well Counsel Symposium in Las Vegas last year. We've been in a couple of others. And so that's our primary focus, but we're ramping up our digital marketing in 2025.
Nice. Nice. Awesome.
What's been quite successful is we're big proponents of coaching, right? Because, in order to take this leap, you sort of need to be of a particular mindset. And so we have gravitated with those coaches that target attorneys specifically. And we think that's a great pair, right? So your coach says, hey, you have staffing issues. And who doesn't have staffing issues, right? They send them over to us. We pre-qualify them through an assessment, and that's been working quite well. Less marketing there because we've been pre-qualified by someone that they look up to. And I think
right.
That's how I like to do business generally, even with my internal estate planning clients.
Yeah. It's less expensive, and it's they're hot leads rather than Yeah, barely warm. Cool, guys.
Well, we appreciate the opportunity and the platform. And if we've motivated you to think otherwise, then that's all that we could do.
Yeah, you certainly got me thinking. For sure. You did a good job at that. So just keep pitching it like you did to me. And I think you guys are going to have a really successful business here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome, guys. Awesome. Talk to you soon.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Joe.
All right. Yeah.
Thanks.
See ya.